In his book, The Success Principles, author Jack Canfield writes about something he calls the success formula, which is E+R equals O. Do you know what those elements are? And do you know the most important one? Today, I'm going to talk about the most important part of the success formula. Welcome to Everyday A New Thought. I'm Thor Chalgren. In his book, The Success Principles, Jack Canfield describes something he calls the success formula. It's this: E+R equals O. And here's what that is. E is event, plus R is response to the event, equals O, or your outcome. So something happens, you have a response to it, and then that response equals your outcome. So the event plus how you respond equals your outcome. As you can imagine, there's usually one fixed aspect in that equation. Do you know what it is? Well, of course, it's the event. Something happens. So that's a fixed, no matter what it is, that is a fixed part of that equation. The variable part is what is your response to it. So things happen. Events happen around us. What we're learning is the response that we have is what determines our outcome. So there's a couple distinctions about this. One is that a lot of people may experience the same event, but it's their response that determines their outcome. A lot of people, for example, could be put in prison, and some of them unjustly. But it was Nelson Mandela and his response that determined his outcome. His response to that same input determined what kind of outcome he had. So how does this work? In his book, Jack Canfield gives an example of a golfer who has a bad round, maybe even just one bad hole. So how that golfer looks at it is what determines his outcome. If the golfer has a bad play at that hole, what could he do? He could blame the hole. He could blame the clubs. He could blame the crowd. So same event, but what's his response determines his outcome. So how could he maybe respond instead? Well, for instance, he could look at himself and say, did he practice enough? Did he visualize what he wanted? Did he think about what he wanted? There's all sorts of ways that you can look at your response and ask, can I respond in a different way to get a different outcome? So think about your own life. Think about one response you had yesterday maybe, and ask, could you have come up with a different response to an event that happened? Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about focusing on the things that you control, your response. That's the episode for this week. If you like the show, please hit like if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast app. Until tomorrow, thanks for watching.